Loyalty is often seen as one of the highest human virtues, shaping character and strengthening relationships in friendships, politics, business, and family life. It is commonly viewed as pure, stable, and unconditional. But what if this belief misunderstands human behavior? What if loyalty is actually conditional and shaped by self-interest? Renaissance thinker Niccolò Machiavelli challenged traditional views by arguing that loyalty is rarely absolute. Instead, he suggested that human relationships are driven by changing circumstances and personal advantage. His perspective does not promote cynicism, but offers a realistic understanding of human motivation and what truly sustains or weakens relationships. Machiavelli's view of human nature. To understand Machiavelli's ideas about loyalty, it is essential to examine his famous work, The Prince, written in 1513. Often misunderstood as a guide for ruthless rulers, the book is better described as an analysis of power, leadership, and human behavior based on Machiavelli's experience in political life. At the core of his philosophy is a simple observation: human beings are naturally changeable and motivated primarily by their own interests. According to Machiavelli, people's commitments and allegiances are not rooted in permanent devotion, but in shifting circumstances. He observed how quickly political supporters changed sides when power shifted in Florence. Individuals who once expressed strong loyalty to a ruling family abandoned them when their influence declined, only to return when conditions changed again. This pattern was not unusual. It reflected a broader truth about human behavior. From this perspective, loyalty is not an independent moral force. Instead, it emerges from practical calculations about advantage, risk, and opportunity. Self-interest as the foundation of loyalty. Machiavelli argued that what appears to be loyalty often reflects an ongoing evaluation of personal benefit. Individuals remain committed to relationships, institutions, or leaders as long as doing so serves their interests and feels like the safest or most rewarding option available. In professional life, this can be seen when employees appear deeply dedicated to an organization, yet quietly remain alert for better opportunities. In politics, alliances that look firm and ideological frequently shift the moment circumstances make a different partnership more beneficial. In friendships, bonds that feel unbreakable can weaken when support becomes costly, time-consuming, or socially inconvenient. Even family relationships, often assumed to be unconditional, can strain or fracture under sustained conflict, financial pressure, or long-term disappointment. These patterns suggest that self-interest does not occasionally override loyalty. It often shapes what loyalty looks like in the first place. Loyalty, in this sense, becomes less of a sacred virtue and more of a reflection of mutual advantage. This does not mean people are always deliberately dishonest. Many individuals genuinely believe in their commitments, but when circumstances change sharply, priorities shift, and loyalty can fade, not necessarily because people become evil, but because their internal calculations change. Why people believe in absolute loyalty? If loyalty is inherently fragile, why do societies continue to treat it as a fundamental virtue? Machiavelli understood that belief in loyalty serves powerful psychological and social functions. Human beings crave stability. They want to believe relationships are reliable, that promises mean something, and that the people around them will remain consistent over time. The idea of unconditional loyalty provides emotional security and makes cooperation possible in a world where individuals naturally have competing interests. Public performances of loyalty, promises, ceremonies, vows, pledges, dramatic statements of commitment strengthen the illusion of permanence. People respond strongly to what they can see and hear, often more than to what can be measured. This creates a gap between appearance and reality, where loyalty is celebrated publicly even while privately remaining conditional. This also explains why betrayal hits so hard. When loyalty breaks, the pain often feels bigger than the practical damage. because it shakes the worldview that relationships are safe, stable, and morally protected. Betrayal doesn't just remove a person, it collapses an assumption. The concept of conditional loyalty. Rather than rejecting loyalty, Machiavelli redefined it as conditional rather than absolute. In his view, people remain loyal when commitment offers greater benefit or less risk than the alternatives. Loyalty appears strongest during stable times when interests align and sacrifices are minimal. But during crises, such as financial hardship or personal struggle, it is tested, and many relationships reveal their limits. He also observed that power imbalances shape loyalty, with those holding greater power often expecting stronger commitment while offering less in return. Additionally, loyalty depends on perceived alternatives. Individuals may abandon commitments when even slightly better opportunities arise. As circumstances change, so do the calculations that sustain loyalty. Fear, consequences, and stability. If loyalty alone cannot ensure stable relationships, what does? Machiavelli argued that lasting commitment is often supported by consequences. By fear, he meant not cruelty, but the understanding that betrayal carries real costs such as loss, punishment, or damage. Modern society reflects this idea through contracts, legal penalties, social reputation, and financial ties that make disloyalty costly. These structures do not prevent betrayal entirely, but they influence behavior by increasing the price of abandoning commitments. From this perspective, stable relationships rely less on moral virtue and more on balanced incentives and clear consequences. Aligned interests as the basis of strong relationships. Machiavelli emphasized that relationships built on shared interests often prove more durable than those based solely on emotion or idealism. When individuals or groups depend on each other for success, cooperation becomes practical and sustainable. Many business partnerships, political alliances, and long-term collaborations endure because both sides continue to benefit from the relationship. In contrast, emotional bonds can weaken when core interests conflict. Love or friendship alone may not survive ongoing imbalance, pressure, or opposing goals. This does not mean emotional connection lacks value, but it shows that shared interests often play a crucial role in maintaining lasting relationships. Practical implications for modern life. Recognizing that loyalty is conditional does not mean abandoning trust, but adopting a more realistic view of relationships. Instead of relying only on promises, it becomes important to understand people's motivations, incentives, and behavior under changing circumstances. This awareness helps manage expectations, reducing the shock of betrayal by accepting that loyalty has limits. It also allows individuals and organizations to build stronger relationships by creating fairness, mutual benefit, and shared interests that encourage commitment. At the same time, this perspective does not reject ethics. It simply acknowledges that personal values alone cannot control others' actions, making it possible to remain principled while understanding human behavior. The liberating power of realism. At first, this view can feel uncomfortable. It strips away comforting fantasies about unconditional devotion and reveals that many relationships survive because they are useful, not because they are pure. Yet, it can also be deeply liberating. When you stop worshiping the myth of perfect loyalty, you stop being trapped by it. You build relationships with stronger foundations, aligned interests, mutual respect, fair exchange, and realistic expectations. This awareness makes you more resilient. You become harder to shock, harder to manipulate, and harder to destroy emotionally when people change. You still value loyalty, but you understand what actually sustains it. Rethinking loyalty. Machiavelli's insight is not that loyalty does not exist. It is that loyalty is not what people pretend it is. Real loyalty is not an eternal moral guarantee. It is a living balance, maintained through shared interest, credible consequences, and practical realities. When you understand this, you become better at nurturing trust, anticipating pressure points, and protecting yourself from naive expectations. You stop being fooled by performance and start seeing structure. In the end, the real divide is not between loyal and disloyal. The real divide is between those who understand how loyalty actually works and those who continue to believe it is magic. And once you see loyalty clearly, you stop chasing illusions. You start building relationships that can survive reality. If this perspective changed how you see loyalty, relationships, and human nature, remember, clarity is power, and understanding people is the ultimate advantage. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us what you think about Machiavelli's view. And if you want to be smarter every day, like and subscribe.